get the energy up in the room just a little bit, I'll teach you a tiny, tiny bit, Dakhwanjé, Southern Shoshone, all the way from what they call the Yukon, but I call it Ta'anmanke. I'm going to ask you all a question. It's very simple. It's kind of slang-like. It's not an official way of asking this, but it's kind of like, you good? So I'll say, showa, and then you can answer, show, all together, show, if you're feeling good. If you're not feeling good, don't answer. I'm not going to teach you how to tell me that. So this is how we're going to say it. I'm going to say, showa, and you're going to say, show, if you're feeling good. Showa, 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 show. All right, we got the energy going for our next panel. Export Development Canada explores how Indigenous businesses can diversify trade, reach new markets, and compete globally while staying rooted in community values. Very important. Our panelists this morning, please welcome Anthony Wingham, co-owner of Nuez Acres, as well as Melanie Bernard, Mini Tipi co-founder, and your moderator for the panel discussion, Donna St. National Lead, Indigenous Business, Inclusive Trade.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Donna St. As you heard, I'm the national lead for Indigenous business with the Inclusive Trade team at Export Development Canada. And I'm also a member of the Coldwater Indian Band, which is part of the inclusive Nation, located in British Columbia. I want to start by thanking NACA for inviting us here to the Igniting Prosperity Forum. It's an honor and really a privilege to be joining and to be a part of the conversation around Indigenous entrepreneurship. It's a topic that I've always been very passionate about since working for an IFI. I used to work at Talahout Aboriginal Capital Corporation, where I had the pleasure of supporting Indigenous entrepreneurs. Things look a little different this morning. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but unfortunately, Jolene Johnson, who was originally scheduled to join us, couldn't make it. She had a family emergency, so she made the important and, of course, understandable decision to stay and support family. So if you can, please put Jolene and her family in your prayers. But I know that she would want us to continue the conversation and talk about demystifying exporting. So I'm so grateful to be here today with two bright stars with incredible businesses. Yes, that's you. Anthony Wingham of Nuez Acres and Melanie Bernard of Mini Tipi. So Melanie, you joined us very last minute. We're so grateful to have you here. Maybe we could start with an introduction from you and tell us about Mini Tipi.
For sure. Is it okay? Oh, yeah, it's on. Sorry. Hello, bonjour, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's last minute, and I hope I will not disappoint. So, as Donna said, I'm Melanie Bernard, co-founder, head of sales and marketing at Mini Tipi. Mini Tipi was founded 10 years ago by Trisha Pichura from Nipissing First Nation and myself from French settler descent. So we're a dynamic duo. And from the beginning, Mini Tipi was rooted in collaboration, authenticity, and a shared vision. We are a Canadian lifestyle brand and home decor brand that is creating authentic Indigenous designs and manufacturing different products with it. We have our manufacturer actually 10 minutes from here with our 18 employees. And I was really happy when you thought of Mini Tipi for the exporting panel, because I have to say that at the beginning, exporting for us was a big word. And then it really started little by little with locally, like for us, like being in Quebec, and then like going to Ottawa, so another province. And then after that, as the brand was growing and the business was growing, then the interest peaked, and then organically, also, we started having clients internationally. So thanks for having me today.
We're so glad to have you here, and I'm glad you made the journey to selling to Ottawa, because as you know, staff at Export Development Canada are huge fans of Mini Tipi, and they're also really big fans of Nuez Acres. So Anthony, moving over to you, please introduce yourself and your company.
Yes, thank you very much. Donna St, Anthony Wingham, Soon, Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, Ochinye, Langley, BC, Newikin, Mitchell. Hello, my name is Anthony Wingham. Originally from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. I live and play and work out in BC, and I am Métis. I'm part of the Métis Nation of British Columbia, and I am one part of Nuez Acres. We are Canada's only Indigenous pecan oil producer, but more importantly, we are committed to the water waste in the beauty industry with our water-free beauty products. We've had a lot of support and a lot of success. We are a pandemic baby. We created this business as the world was literally shutting down. But with that short little bit of success, we've been able to navigate international markets and had a little bit of success back home here in Canada. Thank you.
I didn't realize that Nuez Acres was a pandemic baby, and wow, congratulations, you've had so much growth and success in such a short amount of time. That's amazing, that's amazing. So before we really dive into the conversation, I want to talk a little bit about Export Development Canada and about exporting. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, EDC is a self-sustaining, at arm's length Crown corporation owned by the federal government. Canada is our shareholder, and we're Canada's export credit agency. We provide knowledge solutions, financial solutions like risk mitigation and working capital solutions, as well as connections that help Canadians and Indigenous-owned businesses trade outside of Canada. The EDC supports exporters, so those are companies that are selling directly, whether it's goods or services, to customers outside of Canada. And then we also support, and not everyone thinks about this right away, but we also support indirect exporters. So those are the companies that are selling goods and services to the export supply chain. Something to think about. This morning, I really want to demystify exporting, talk about growth and how community or our community roots really impact the business. So we're going to touch on how also the IFIs are an important resource and a catalyst for Indigenous business growth. So Anthony, starting for you, let's hear about your Hello? Okay.
Yeah.
That felt weird.
I don't know.
Anthony, starting with you, let's hear about Nuez Acres' exporter origin story. Can you tell us how exporting first became part of your journey at Nuez Acres and what made it feel possible?
Yeah, for sure. So when we think about Nuez Acres, the main commodity that we use is actually pecans. My partner's family actually grows these pecans down in Mexico. So when the pecans come down in December, we fly those pecans into Langley, BC. So we already had a path from Mexico through United States into Canada. So for us, it just made sense for us to kind of start exporting. Even where we are located in Vancouver, BC, Seattle is literally a 2-hour drive away. So for us, exporting wasn't really about getting on a plane, flying to another country. It was literally packing up the kids, couple of the products, some samples, taking a 2-hour trip down to Seattle, and we were back in bed that same night. So for us, exporting really was just kind of taking a shot at it, sometimes incorporating a couple of vacations with it. But really, we knew that we were going to be exporting from the beginning of our journey because we were already at the stage where we were importing those products into Canada.
Okay, thank you so much. Melanie, over to you. What does Mini Tipi's export journey look like, and what did export readiness look like for you?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, and with my big words of like exporting to Ottawa, I feel like we tapped into exportation early like this, and our dynamic duo being a francophone and anglophone too, so we were like tapping interprovincial, I'd say. But as our business grew, the export readiness, in fact, like we found that step by step, having the procedure, we saw that we couldn't go like right away international because we didn't have all the process and everything. Being a manufacturer in the sewing industry makes it even more difficult, I'd say, and being women and Indigenous owned too. So all of these stages with us, I think we just had to structure everything. And now we are at the point where we get invited to trade missions, where we export internationally. So it's really, I think the opportunities grew at the same time as we structured our business. So right now we are working with a logistics center in the United States, and we were selling internationally, but with the tariffs we had to wait and stop a little bit because the prices were becoming ridiculous for us. So right now we have a logistics center for the first time in the U.S. And for us, it just opened for a really new market, in the native market there. And we're ready for what's next.
That's incredible. So for either of you, was there an aha moment where you're like, yeah, we're going to export? Was there something that really triggered the decision to move to doing business outside of Canada?
Well, for us being in the beauty industry, right from the beginning, we understood that one of the biggest consumers was that United States market. So that was really the understanding. We created this business from the back looking forward. So we understood the label requirements, we understood what we needed to actually get into the United States, and that's what we started building our business with, and then work back from there. So that was just the kind of the aha moment, was that's where the consumer is. We're in a beauty industry. We have a very small budget compared to some of our competitors that have multi-million-dollar budgets. So we really had the opportunity to kind of go down there and kind of break into the market by just being able to drive down there. And that's kind of the biggest reality for us, was we weren't getting onto a plane to go across the waters. We weren't shipping big, sea cans on a big ship. We were literally, taking down a couple of bottles and meeting with some potential stores and clients.
Yeah, it resonates also. And for us, I think from the beginning, we saw that our biggest competitor, that we dare to call a competitor, even if we're a really, really tiny business beside them, we found they were not doing the right thing because they're not selling authentic Indigenous designs. So for us, it became a mission and our vision to why not Mini Tipi? So we knew there would be a market for us there. And the aha moment was like, oh, wait a minute, now we're ready. Oh, it sounds a little bit like evil. No, that's not evil. Sorry. I should laugh out mic, but yes. So for us, it's seeing the competitor that was not aligned with our values, but still had a market there because people they don't have any better offer, I guess. So it became a motivator for us.
That's great. It's totally okay to have an evil laugh while you plot world domination. No problem. You're among friends here, so we're good. Melanie, I want to talk a little bit about the role of the Indigenous financial institutions, which, from my own experience, having worked at one, have had such a big impact for Indigenous entrepreneurs and really helping them start, grow, scale, all those things. I think you worked really closely with SOCA, with Mini Tipi. Can you tell us how that relationship helped you navigate exporting or helped you start or grow your business?
For sure. So having our business in Quebec, so we are dealing with SOCA, and Trisha being a member of Nipissing First Nation, we also tapped into other resources. So with SOCA, they really helped us from the beginning to see the resources that were available, what fund we could apply for, and also to really think about our structure. I will always remember the person at SOCA is like, you really have to think of what steps you will take, because we're not going to say yes all the time, girls. And we're like, oh, okay. So, they really helped us take a step back and have to structure all of it. And then we also are working closely with NACA and the incubator hub Adawe, right here in Ottawa, that were members and active members of that community, and they're always so supportive of all our ideas, all whatever we would need. And we're also really happy to give back to this community. So Trisha is the entrepreneur in residence at Adawe, and I'm also mentoring and a part of the community. So I think it's a give, right? So, but Anthony was talking about really, really cool resources he was tapping into, and then I'm just throwing that out there. If SOCA or has any idea like this, I'm in. Go tell us all about it, Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony, please. Well, tell us about like your experience working with Talahout Aboriginal Capital Corporation over in Coast Salish territories, and like how did they support you with Nuez Acres? And then I also would love, if you can, to touch on your work with Export Navigator, because I think everyone here would be really interested in learning more about that as well.
Yeah, so I know that I spoke a bit about this on the last year's panel, the work with TAC, with Brian. This is the first, and actually to the date, the only organization that's ever said yes to us for funding. My relationship with Brian actually blossomed before even going to funding. He would actually be volunteer his time to be a judge on a panel for the ICEDR program. And I actually had pitched my business to Brian, and he was in the audience. And then from there, that relationship has just blossomed into really having somebody in my corner that supports us and really believes in us. And even when the tariffs kind of dropped and the world was going crazy for those first couple weeks, the first person that phoned me was Brian, and he said, "What do you need? How much money do you need?" And we were able to get ahead of a lot of the issues that were happening, and we ended up getting some money injected in us, and we were able to ship a bunch of the products down to the States, so we weren't impacted by what was going on there. But yeah, no, TAC, and they still are the only ones that have ever said yes, and even the ecosystem that comes with NACA and the IFIs, even the people that are in this room, has just been, it's been incredible, you know, having that support behind us, and really makes a difference when it comes to being sometimes the first Indigenous brand in some of the shelves, or the first Indigenous brand here and there. So it really helps when you have that support. And then, yeah, touching on the work that I do with Export Navigator, I kind of put another hat on in September there. So in British Columbia, there's a program called Export Navigator that really helps BC-based businesses with one-on-one support, from understanding what an export plan is to having a specialist program where you can get IP support. You can get, we were really dealing with a lot of people trying to get CUSMA compliant. So how can you actually still get your products down to the United States with trying to be CUSMA compliant to get some of those tariffs off? So the program itself is really supportive. We work with Indigenous and non-Indigenous. I'm the advisor for Indigenous-owned businesses. And there's about 16 advisors throughout the province that really offer that one-on-one support, guidance, really connect you with the ecosystem. That ecosystem is outside of British Columbia, you know, with global affairs, EDC, BDC. I mean, there's an incredible ecosystem out there, and sometimes it just takes a little introduction to get into it.
Thanks, Anthony. I really appreciate you touching on that. It makes me think of yesterday's panel when Jody Anderson was from the FNFA was talking about, you know, the need for those wraparound services and the supports for Indigenous entrepreneurs to go through something that feels really big and scary, right? Exporting. So to have some additional support with that, but also to hear from you both on how you actually ended up exporting. Maybe it's not as big and scary. And like Kate Russell from Supply Nation said, like sometimes you just got to go and do it, right? And try it out. Let's talk about demystifying. Let's keep that going. So for Melanie, what have been the biggest challenges to exporting so far, and what have been the rewards?
Yes. So I think that the biggest challenges were in itself growing the business. So, you know, we're okay, that's sweet, like exporting to Ottawa, but what's next? You know, let's be real. So for us, it was becoming a real manufacturer. Like, if you want to export, like, how do you structure yourself? How do you have production timelines? How do you make sure that you have the right employees? All of that. How do you make sure to like focus on what's right? So to know your numbers too, because the pricing structure, you know, let's say for us personally, we buy our fabric in euros and then we will sell it in US. So all this complexity, well, it's complex, but the biggest reward is when you see that it works and you're ready, and you see that like a Canadian women-owned, Indigenous-owned business is succeeding. This is like priceless. So this is the biggest reward, I think, and this is what keeps you on going. And once you saw a new market and you understand, first of all, your own numbers, right? Like your Canadian pricing structure, then it opens up to like new markets, and you're like, okay, this is how it works in the US. This is how it works in Japan, and other also selling culture and just relationships. Yeah.
It's amazing. Thank you. How about for Nuez Acres? What have been the biggest hurdles, and what about the rewards?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think if you were a little bit closer, you can see some of the gray hair. But it's a real reality for all the businesses that are here in this room. The last 6 years of being in the business has been a complete nightmare. As I mentioned at the beginning, I started off in the pandemic. So as we were looking at starting a business, the world shut down. And then we had, in our own backyard, we had high interest rates that came from that, which pulled back on some of the retailers. And then we had tariffs, we had striking, we had Canada Post striking. So we had many challenges that came along with that. And then on top of all that, you have a consumer on both sides of whether it's the United States, Canada, over in European countries, hearing the word tariff, hearing the word CUSMA, nobody really knowing what's going on. So even though we are CUSMA compliant, our business was CUSMA before CUSMA was a cool word to say. We still had to educate that consumer on the other side to understand that, no, you're not going to have tariffs. And then even dealing with the shipping rates that increased because everybody was trying to get their products down to the States or into other countries. So those were some extreme challenges. I mean, we're still in the middle of our neighbors to the south and what's going on with the trade tensions down there. But that just really shows the resilience of our business, of Indigenous business, of me as a Métis person, the resilience we have in our nation. And that really makes me have a sense of pride, as well as, being on stages like this, being able to go speak with mentees. One of my mentees actually was one of the award winners last night. So being able to share that advice and share some of those tips and tricks, I think that's the biggest reward for me, is being able to give that knowledge back and really try to help get Indigenous businesses to continue on exporting and being successful.
That's incredible. And just a follow up for both of you, were there any surprises, like anything that caught you off guard when it came to exporting?
I'm just like reminiscing all the hurdles you said. I was like, oh my God, I kind of forgot about all of it. Surprises. I think, recently when we reopened like the shipping and the exportation to the US. So it's mainly because we had our first collaboration with a Native American artist. And at first we were wondering, how will the Canadian market take it? Because there was like the Buy Canadian Strong going on still. And then how will the US market take it, And then we called that campaign Beyond Borders and educate people educate non-Indigenous people about Turtle Island. And then the response was amazing. And this collaboration is doing great. So that market is like very fluid, and we were really reassured. So we had the courage to launch it anyway, because it took courage, because we're like, social media, what will people think? What will our Canadian market think? And the US, so that was a really good surprise, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think the biggest surprise for us was, we talk about different countries sometime, but the reality of us as peoples, we moved down to the States. So when we were going down to export to the States, we were actually finding Canadians down there. We were able to find businesses that were Canadian, that were, dual citizenship, and they really supported what we were doing. So, sometimes when you're looking at other markets and you're thinking you're going to this whole new foreign market, you can sometimes find your cousins or your friends or your neighbors that are just down on the border, and they can really support you to make sure that you have a good launch when you go down there.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I'm so interested in your day-to-day lives when you're actually managing and running your companies. Maybe we could swap jobs for a week or something, or I can follow you around.
I'm like, evil laugh again.
Back to world domination. All right. Let's talk about growth and focus. So time is a constant pressure for entrepreneurs. How do you prioritize as your business grows? Melanie, let's start with you.
The more your business is growing, the more you will have opportunities. So the bigger the business get, the bigger the opportunities are. I call them shiny stuff. And then I try not to focus on the shiny stuff and to really get aligned. And at one point, Trish and I, were like, oh my goodness, you're in that whirlwind and you're not sure. And then we always come back to our values and the vision. and the team. So this is what guides my decisions. And I think like also getting like more procedures, like, that's a boring word, but what can I say? As the team grows, and using more tools to manage your time too.
Yeah, for us, when we thought about time and how we can manage that, we really made sure that the market we had in our backyard was strong, was able to support what we wanted to do. And then when we look at other markets, when we look at potential areas we want to focus on, we really make sure that there's actual demand in there. We really make sure that we don't waste our time going after all these opportunities. As we have a prime minister that is actively going around the world creating free trade agreements, while that may be shiny and nice and you want to jump into every opportunity, we really make sure that we focus on opportunities that aren't going to waste our time, that really make sense to us, that align with our values, and ultimately is the easier path to the success that we find.
Amazing. Was there any support or resource that really helped you focus on the right thing, like any technologies or something you can share?
Well, as my team is growing, I say that because 2 years ago, I was doing all the sales and marketing for my business. So now that we have a sales and marketing team, this is great. And then we started integrating all our tools, like time management tools, and then newly HubSpot. Like maybe it looks like something so small, but then like it opened us a world of possibilities just by all staying connected. And anyway, so it's AI focused too. So we of course are using AI, and it really, really like helped us. It's becoming like a little sidekick. It's helping us structure ourselves, and then after we can get creative and create a real relationship that matters, So let the robot do the boring stuff, and then let's focus on what humans we do best.
Yeah, no, I would echo the same thing. We've really embraced AI as one of those main tools for us, not just to make pretty pictures or have, rabbits jumping on trampolines, but really using some of the tools properly, like using Perplexity to really look at different countries that have different regulations that you might have to follow, even using ChatGPT to make sure that when we are making outreach emails, that it really is targeted to who that buyer is, using the language that they're using in that country, even understanding who that buyer is that they might be ultimately getting that product to. And it really makes sure that when you're reaching out to those potential clients, those buyers, that there's a little bit of personalization there. I'm sure all of us, as we're sitting here, we probably got 5 or 6 different emails in our email box. So by using some of these tools, we're actually able to stand out in that email box. We're actually able to get responses back, and that's really been a huge success for us. And we've actually been able to keep our team pretty small and manageable without having to have all these other different employees doing all these other tasks that the robot could do. And obviously checking that to some of the databases like Global Affairs, EDC, all the other tools that are out there, just to make sure that that human touch is still there, but really embracing AI and using it more for than just creating content like images and stuff like that.
No, that's really interesting. You mentioned that you used AI to do some of your research before doing some of your engagement. Have you found that the information provided by ChatGPT or whichever platform you're using is useful and trustworthy? Is it getting better?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like even using a tool like Claude, you can put in, a simple chat. Like I was just teaching export to the Atlantic provinces this morning, actually, and we were running through Claude and we were talking about a Tabasco company and the opportunities in the UK. And it spit out, 20 different sources of different websites. Some of those sources are actually the Canada websites itself. So AI has really come from what it used to be, even just a short 3-4 months ago. It's starting to get better every single day almost. So, we do use that, but we do make sure we check the sources. The government of Canada, EDC, BDC, Export Navigator, all these different programs have so much data. What's coming in, what's going out, what the free trade agreements are looking for. So being able to tap into that, put it into one of those language model systems, you can really get some good data out that's really going to cut down a lot of the time, and ultimately sometimes the most expensive questions you can get out of the way by getting right to the answer you want.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I have for the business for Mini Tipi 2 examples. So last summer we went on a trade mission to Japan. And it was the exploration, or just like culturally, how can we present and make relevant our products to the Japanese culture? So, like every mini detail was important, how to dress, how like the card holder, the business card holder, all of this. And yes, we could have asked questions, but sometimes, like it brings you a different perspective. So it was really, really helpful. And another way we use it, our website is on Shopify. And now ChatGPT and Shopify are synced. And now there's a new word, so probably, I don't know if you know that, but so there's the SEO, but now they call it the GEO. So to get found by ChatGPT, because now you can shop while you are in ChatGPT. So then in order to be able to be a choice, a relevant choice by ChatGPT, you need to work on your GEO. So that's a way we worked on our GEO. So I encourage you to go learn about that, to become a choice. And then this is a cheaper choice. And let's say let's go on a trade mission, visit. So then it's a quick, while you sleep, people can shop your products internationally, and chat is like, hey, you need a Mini Tipi product, So this is a quick hack, but then makes us export around the world.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that. Listen, we have some really important people in the room, some problem solvers, decision makers. I think now is a great time to ask, what resources do you think are still needed to make exporting easier or accessible for Indigenous businesses? Anthony?
This is a question that I've been coming up to quite a bit. So I've experienced myself, there is so much support at the beginning stages. You can go in there, you can get loans, you can get business plans, you can get advisory support. The support that I see now is the after part. We as Nuez Acres, we've been able to launch into 250 Walmart locations. We've had a huge launch with Unify and Fred Meyer down in the States. And just to be listed on some of those sites, it's over $30,000. And to go try to get funding to just be listed on another site, there's no way that people are giving us funding for that. So I think for the people in the room, we've done a lot of good work at getting Indigenous entrepreneurs going. Now we need to look at what that next stage is. We've got the businesses on those shelves. How do we make sure that they actually stay on the shelves? How do we make sure that those Indigenous companies that have made that, blood, sweat sacrifice to kind of be a movement in their own sense can actually still have that success and go forward? So I would leave that to the power in the room to really look at what that next set of funding looks like and how that wraparound supports can continue after you fly out of that nest.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I find, as you said, there's a lot of support, which is amazing for the beginning stages. But what next? But one thing I find really useful is connections. So going to events like this, like the amount of connections you can make, and then you never know who you're gonna meet, who you're gonna talk to, that one person that will help you get there. This is really a chance that we have, I find. But I echo what you say about what's next,
Very powerful answers. Thank you so much. We're going to talk more after this about how maybe EDC can help and support you in that space. For our audience members, thank you so much for joining us. The timer has literally gone red. We're out of time, but I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about the exporting journeys and success and rewards of Nuez Acres and Mini Tipi. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.